get out of town, man.
This episode is brought to you by Danish Creamery. It is a well-known secret that the way I level up my pancakes is with the extra richness of Danish Creamery butter. In today's recipe, the butter both adds flavor and keeps the pancakes tender. If you feel like you've mastered the basic pancake for a weekend morning, it's time you level up your game with this miso syrup. With the help of Danish Creamery European-style unsalted butter, you can be sure that your pancakes will be out of this world. For more info on Danish Creamery, head to the link in the description or scan the QR code.
Hey there, folks. My name is Andrew Ray. You might know me as Babish, and this is my new cook-along series. Throughout the course of this episode, I'm going to prepare a dish from front to back in real time. This is a show to put on in the background or while you're falling asleep, or my favorite, to put on and cook right along with me. The written recipe for this episode, the recipe for this episode is in the video description, but if you want gear lists, shoppable ingredient lists, automatic metric to imperial conversions and the like, and a growing community of over 30,000 people who are sharing their recreations and their experiences and their tips and tricks, head to babi.sh, that's babi.sh. It's Babish with a period in there where it doesn't belong. That's my website. It costs $10 a year. That's less than $1 a month. Go check it out. Sign up there. What are we making today? Well, I'm in the mood for something a little different. We've only been doing savory, crunchy, dinner type stuff so far on this show, and I want to do some breakfast. And I haven't had pancakes in a good long while. We've done pancakes pretty much to death on this channel. We've done a lot of pancakes. Recently did an Every Way to Screw Up pancakes episode, and today I'm going to go for a very different style of pancake. I recently went to the Golden Diner, where Chef Sam Yu makes some of the best pancakes in the city. They're these really thick, fluffy, about yay thick pancakes with a soy-infused maple syrup and a honey butter and this fruit compote. So I'm taking some inspiration from that. It's definitely going to be a very different recipe, but I'm going to, take some inspiration from that. I'm going to draw some cues there. Before we get started, I want to run down a little checklist that I'd love to do at the beginning of each episode. Want to make sure that we have all of our stuff in place. I've got my ingredients and the various tools that I need within arm's reach. If you haven't done that, I encourage you to do it now. We're going to do all the me's on camera, so all the measuring and slicing and scooping and all that stuff. Don't worry about that, but just get your ingredients where you can grab them. Next up, we have the written recipe. This isn't really a written recipe. This is my sketch and the idea that I'm going to be going off of. But I also do have a more precise recipe for the pancakes that I have here on my phone. Speaking of phones, I encourage you to join me in putting your phone in Do Not Disturb if you're able. I know not everybody's able to do that. Some of y'all have kids and things that you need to be available to be disturbed at all times. But if you're able, I really encourage it. It is a very different kind of cooking experience when you know that nobody is going to interrupt you, nobody's going to text you, you're not going to get sidetracked. It's a really nice thing to experience, so I encourage you to give it a try. We have a nice sharp knife. We have a scale at the ready. This is going to be a scaled recipe for the sake of precision. And I think that's everything. Of course, garbage bowl and bench scraper. This one's already dirty because I was making some of the French onion soup leftovers from last episode for my compatriots for lunch. And also, speaking of which, if this is your first time tuning in, this is a completely solo cooking experience. There's no crew here. This camera that's following me everywhere I go. This is a robotic camera that I've come to call Rover. Rover does not replace or supplant anybody on the BCU staff. Rover's here just so I can make a show entirely by myself, so we can create a different environment for you and me to enjoy. So let's, I've also been taking to sketching up my idea before filming the episode, so let's take a look in the close-up cam. As you can see, we're going for the same preparation that Sam Yu does. He basically makes one pancake at a time in a non-stick skillet, cooks it to the point of doneness on one side, and then throws it underneath the broiler to catch the other side. So you end up with these domed, very thick pancakes, about yay thick. He does a soy sauce, butter, maple, and honey syrup. I'm gonna do something similar, but instead of the soy, I'm gonna go for a miso, red miso, which I think is it's both gonna give it a really incredible color and it's gonna give it a really great depth of flavor. The pancakes themselves, I'm going with our classic pancake recipe. I have no idea how well it's gonna work in the fry pan broiler format. We'll see how that works out. Then instead of a fruit compote, I'm gonna go with some spiced apples, bourbon fried apples that I'm gonna hit with some ginger and cardamom and cinnamon and nutmeg. And of course bourbon. Hopefully we'll see some flames. Then we're also gonna incorporate brown butter into the pancakes. That's gonna give a nice, richer, nuttier flavor. And then we're going to also make some honey butter on top. That honey butter is going to be infused with maple syrup. We're just basically gonna whip some butter with some maple syrup and honey. Easy as that. So we have our lay of the land. Let's get started. First thing we wanna do is make the honey butter. It's the thing that can sit around for the longest, so we might as well get started on it. And for this one, I'm gonna have to tool up. Go with the stand mixer, because I really wanna whip this butter and get it light and fluffy. So with the stand mixer, I'm going to use a wire whip. That's just going to help, really whip up the butter and incorporate some air into it, get it light and fluffy. Speaking of which, I've got plenty, since there's so much butter going into this episode, I got plenty of butter that I've let sit out at room temperature for a couple hours so that it's totally room temperature. I'm gonna grab one of these sticks, the uglier of the two. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm gonna put that one in the stand mixer. Put this guy back with my Mies. And let's whip it up. I'm gonna lighten, fluff it up before I add anything else, but let's incorporate some air into it. And to make sure that it really gets properly whipped, I'm going to stop after a moment here, scrape down the sides. Not only, is it missing a couple little bits like this chunk right here, but also as it sticks to the sides, it's making less and less contact with the blades of the whip. I don't know if you call them blades, the wires of the whip, of the wire whip. You can just use the whip itself to scrape everything off your spatula. That way you're getting stuff off your spat and it's going straight back down where it needs to go. That's looking nice and light and fluffy. Good stuff. I'm gonna scrape it down one more again. And then I actually don't know if I want to add maple syrup to this. I might just go honey. I might just do honey butter. My thinking is that, well, first off, my maple syrup is cold, which means that it could re-solidify the butter and cause me a big old honking problem. But also, honey butter sounds like enough to me. And the syrup for this is going to be so rich that I don't think I need to add maple to the situation. So I'm probably going with that was 2 tablespoons to start. Don't add too much, otherwise the honey's going to be runny. You don't want runny honey. But it looks like it can take significantly more than that, so I'm going to add another 2 tablespoons worth. I just did a very pro move just then, which is, I don't even know if I can do it again. I'm tempted not to, but basically you might have seen that I turned off the mixer and before it stopped spinning down, while it was still moving pretty fast, I lifted it out of the mix. And as you can see, there's very little butter stuck to the whip because it got centrifugal motioned off. It got basically pushed off. Let's see where we're at here. I mean, that's really good. I think we're good there. It's mostly butter, but there's a distinct sweetness to it, obviously. So I think we're good with that. Let's just scrape off what we can here. There's not much, but let's get it. Yeah, man, I'm not getting anything off of that, so whatever. All right, let's get this honey butter out of here. As you can see, it is light and fluffy and has become aerated, and it's very, very soft. It's gonna be very easy to scoop into a nice, I might use this very small ice cream scoop to make a perfect little dome on top of my domes. Let's get this put aside into a mise cup. It's like a little bit of honey didn't get incorporated there. That's cool. Streak of honey. Can you imagine if you could buy butter with streaks of honey in it? The world would be a much more peaceful place. All right. There we go. So, job one done. Honey butter made. I suppose it was just as simple as mixing together honey and butter, but whatever. Let's credit where credit's due. Let's congratulate ourselves when we've done something. Why not? Next up on the to-do list is the spiced apples. We're doing this at a time because these spiced apples can hang out for as long as is necessary. They're pretty unperishable. You could even make these ahead of time, put them in the fridge, warm them up before serving. So both this and the honey butter. The honey butter, if you put it back in the fridge, it is going to re-solidify. It will probably stay a little more flexible because of the honey, but that being said, you're gonna have to let it sit at room temp. You could try and soften it up gently in the microwave, but chances are you're gonna melt it and it's not gonna reincorporate. So if you do make that ahead of time, exercise caution. So I have here a Honeycrisp apple. It's a very good, all-purpose baking, eating, whatever apple. It's expensive, but they're really good, so I have a hard time not, eating them. I'm just gonna peel and slice. That's really all there is to it. Last episode was French onion soup, if you missed it, and got to be one of the tastier things I've ever made in my life. And I was talking about how you can make all of it ahead of time and assemble it day of, and that's precisely what I did today. I made lunch for the crew by just heating up the soup and then retoasting some bread, spreading that marrow on there. I saved the marrow as well. And just put the whole thing in a big old tureen, Julia Child style. And it was a smash success. Easiest way for cutting up apples, I find, is to basically, cut all the way down pretty much to the core, one facet, and then just go all the way around. Boop, 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 and then boom. Got yourself an apple core. There's a tiny little bit of usable apple on here, so that's not getting used, but boom. I'm going for some real, what do you call it? Cracker Barrel style. Cracker Barrel style apples here. So I'm going to just slice these into those ever recognizable apple slices. Pretty thin, going for, again, I'm terrible at measurements here, but what is that, like half a centimeter? I don't know. I have such a bad eye for like measurements. I have no idea how big or small things are, but that to me looks like half a centimeter. And that's what I'm going for. These are gonna cook quickly so that we won't have to stew the hell out of them, so they'll keep their shape, which I want them to be recognizable on top of the pancakes. I'm just doing one apple here because, well, it's just for me. But if you're making this for a group of people, I would do 2 apples. You'll see that this is gonna make, these will shrink down by about 30, 40%. So it's gonna be, yay much fried apples. That's just enough for 1 to 2 pancakes. If you're doing a family or a group of folks, do 2 or 3 apples. To cook said apples, we need butter. Into a non-stick pan. Probably do this in any pan because they're not gonna stick. There's too much sugar and liquid for them to stick to anything. I'm gonna go with dark brown sugar for my source of sweet. If you have this sugar's still nice and soft, if you could see that, I just squeezed it and exploded. But if you have, hardened, if you let moisture get to your brown sugar and it's all hardened and crystallized, this is a great use for it because we're melting it anyway. So no harm, no foul. See, this is how you end up ruining your brown sugar. You wash your hands like that, you wash the sugar off, and then you don't completely dry them, and then you handle the sugar, and that cakes it up. But you can always re-soften it a couple different ways. They sell these like, this is a great way to keep it fresh. Whenever you see these silica gel packets in a new appliance that you buy or anything, this is a desiccant, helps control the humidity in here. And if you've caked your sugar, you can try and revitalize it the same way that you would the stuff that you make jazz cigarettes with. I don't want to get demonetized, but the green stuff that people enjoying. And you can, the same way that you'd refresh that plant matter is to throw a slice of fresh sandwich bread in there. That is going to, I don't know what happens. It re-normalizes the moisture in the sugar, and it can soften it back up. But they also sell these little pucks, these little clay pucks that apparently help regulate the humidity as well. A bunch of different ways you can do it. I'm not the person to go to ask about how or why because, well, clearly I don't know what I'm talking about. Just drop the apples into the butter. I don't know why my instinct is to put my hand in my pocket when I toss things on the stove. But I'm just giving them a toss to evenly coat them in butter. These are gonna cook for a minute, and then as soon as I feel like they're starting to soften up, I'm gonna add the sugar and the spices. And I have a couple different spices I wanna incorporate today. Okay, so let these sit for, solid minute without moving them. That way we start getting some color. A little bit of color on the apples. We're both putting color on the apples and we're browning the butter just a little bit. We're gonna be doing some proper brown butter for the pancakes, but we don't need to worry about that just yet. Yeah, I'm gonna get a little color on these apples before I sugar and spice and everything nice them. Okay, those are softening up. They're starting to get some brown on there. I think we're good. I'm probably gonna add, let's say, I'd call that, for 1 apple, looks like about three tablespoons of brown sugar. Cinnamon is a must-have for fried apples like this. That was probably a ½ teaspoon of cinnamon. And I've got some ground ginger here, about a ¼ teaspoon of ground ginger. Totally optional, but I got a ¼ teaspoon of ground cardamom. And then freshly grated nutmeg. If you haven't heard me espouse the virtues of grating your own nutmeg, it starts today. About a ¼ teaspoon's worth. Freshly grated nutmeg just tastes hilariously, comically better. It just does. It's much more, it's brighter and more floral. It just smells fresher. It tastes fresher. It's better all around. So if you can grate your own, highly recommend.
put away these spices. That's all we're going to need these for. Okay, and as you can see, both the sugar is melting and the apples are starting to release their juices. No need to add any liquids of any kind here. And I'm going pretty heavy on the spices and the sugar because, unlike normal fried apples, I'm also going to hit with a little bit of salt. Always a good idea to salt your sweets. A little bit of salt. Unlike normal fried apples, which might be served as a side, as they are at the Cracker Barrel, these are condiments. These are bringing lots of stuff to the table. I want them to deliver a lot of flavors in a very small bit of real estate. So that's why we're going a little hard on the spices. Don't those already look freaking awesome? Oh, I was going to do bourbon. I forgot. It's not too late. Not to worry. You'll have flames yet, my pretties. I'm going to really crank this up. And I'm going to be very, very careful right now. Something I encourage you to be. I do not recommend trying this at home. This can be perilous. Also, I'm doing this in a nonstick pan. However, this is a Babish nonstick pan, which is oven safe to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, which means normally you might not want to flambe in a nonstick pan because it's going to reach too high a temperature. And it's going to hurt the coating. It's going to release chemicals into the air. No good. But with this one, it is safe to much higher temperatures. It's like a half tablespoon there. Let's see. Come on, boys. There we go. Come on. Well, I caught a couple little flames there, but nothing to write home about. So, sorry about that. But hey, you saw a couple flames. That's fine. Let that booze cook off. Let some of the moisture cook down. Don't want these to be too saucy. Don't want them to be competing with the pancake syrup. I've never made my own pancake syrup. I've only ever used, maple syrup. Very excited to see what that world holds for me. Look at those. Would you look at those? I'm going to turn the heat down and I'm going to give them a taste because that's what we're going to do with everything so long as I remember. Before serving anything or putting it aside until service, we're tasting it, see what it tastes like. Careful, this is going to be hot because it's in boiling sugar, which is hotter than boiling water, so careful. Jesus. It needs acid. That's the one thing it's missing. I'm going to crank on the heat again. And you might not need this if you use a higher acidity apple, like a Pink Ladies are pretty tart. If you're using a really tart apple, green apple, what am I saying? If you're using a green apple, probably don't need to do this. But I'm just going to add a little squeeze of lemon. It's like a tablespoon, just to brighten things up a little bit. Mix that in there. God, this smells good. Could use some vanilla too. It smells like vanilla almost, like as it is. So I assume vanilla would be nice in there. But there's already enough going on in here. This is what it needed. It's a little bit of acidity. Again, if you're using green apple, something like that, probably don't need this. But that just, if you taste it and it's too rich, it's too sweet, do that and it'll wake it right up. Now, I'm not going to keep these in the pan, as tempting as that may be, because then I can just keep them warm. I can reheat them right in the pan. But I did just add lemon juice, and lemon juice is an acid. There's really not enough of it to cause a problem. You need a pretty acidic food. Oh, I lost an apple. Whoops. You need a pretty acidic food to cause problems. The thing is that nonstick pans are reactive. In other words, they can introduce a sort of metallic tinny flavor to your
food if it's too acidic, which is why you should never make, let's say, tomato sauce in a nonstick pan, because you're going to end up with that kind of off metallic flavor. I'm just gonna leave those in the pan because I did just add an acid, but it wasn't much, and you need a pretty acidic food, and I believe you need to be heating it. No, that's not true. Regardless, it's not that much acid. I think it's gonna be okay. I mean, it'll be a good experiment. If they come out tasting a little metallic, it's not gonna hurt you, it's not bad for you. It's just not very good tasting food. So this will be a good experiment. So next up, what's next? We did the apples, we did the honey butter. The pancake syrup, of course. So this one I'm pretty stoked on. Oh, it's okay. This was just clean, so there's a little water in there, so that's what's sizzling. I was like, what the hell is sizzling in this clean pot? Okay, putting about a stick's worth of butter into the pot. Now, I'm gonna brown this butter because I want this to be a brown butter syrup, which I think is gonna be awesome. I mean, just listen to how delicious that sounded when I said it. So, I'm gonna brown this butter. It's probably gonna take a few minutes, and you can't see in here, so I'm not gonna do it in here, actually. I'm gonna do it in a saute pan because I want you to be able to see. Let's dump that right into there. Dirtied a pan needlessly, but that's okay. There we go. So we got about stick, which for those of you across the pond, that is about 115 grams or 4 ounces of unsalted sweet cream butter that I'm going to brown. Browning butter is a tricky thing first few times. I've learned the hard way that you do not want to step away from it, ever. Basically what you're doing is, when you brown butter, is you're cooking off all the water. Butter tends to be in the family of 80 to 85% fat, and then the rest of it is water. It's an emulsification with that water. So you're cooking off the water, which takes a few minutes, and then once the water cooks off, the milk, fats, proteins separate and become these little white flecks that you see swimming around in the butter. And then you're just gently cooking those until they turn a nice toasty golden brown. So it's, oh, I was gonna brown the butter for the pancakes. That's what I was doing. Well, that's fine. We still gotta do it. But I only needed, oh, shoot. Well, I guess I'm gonna I'm gonna do both. I'm gonna brown both butters. Why not? Yeah, double brown butter all the way. All right, so this can be tricky because you've probably been told when you're deep frying to keep, at all costs, keep water away from the oil. And the reason for that is that basically water will drop to the bottom of the oil, superheat, explode, and that will cause everything else to explode, basically sending, screaming hot oil, much hotter than sometimes, twice the temperature of boiling water all over the place, and, chaos ensues. Similar thing can happen here where, I'll show you what happens when we get close. Basically, we got all the butter melted now. Now, if I just let it sit undisturbed over, pretty solid heat, start hearing some loud, that right there, that's water. And I'm not gonna do it. This is where you need to start getting concerned when it gets this loud. Give it a swirl. What's happening there is the water is, I believe it's collecting, sort of, and it's superheating and it's bubbling up, and it can reach a sort of inflection point where it will explode. I've had, there's actually video of it. We've put it in a couple videos now from a live stream where I did explode some butter. I did indeed. And luckily I had just stared over it and then walked away to look at something else. This is the other thing. Just notice that the butter's starting to turn brown. Can you see that? See all the milk proteins there, nice and brown. That means we're going to take it off the heat entirely, otherwise it's going to burn. Now, I know I just said keep water away from it, but if it's looking like it's going to burn, like it's getting too brown, hit it with a couple ice cubes. This is both going to, halt it from cooking any further, going to slow things down, and it's also going to replace the water that we lost in the browning process, which we actually want. We actually want in our pancake syrup, because it's an emulsification of fat and sugar and water, and we need water in order for things to stay, combined. So I'm going to hit it with, oh boy, that is runny maple syrup. I don't know how much maple syrup that is. I think I'm adding about as much maple syrup as, what is up with this maple syrup and this lid? That is some silly, gluggy, weird stuff. I'm going to add about as much honey and maple syrup as there is butter, maybe a little less of each. Grab myself a whisk, and we're going to cook this together a little bit. Just get everybody emulsified and knowing one another. You might have to cook it down a little bit, because that maple syrup has got to be the thinnest maple syrup I've ever seen in my life. So this should thicken up as it cools. Now, what Sam Yu does at Golden Diner is he adds soy sauce at this stage. And I'm going to do something kind of similar but kind of different, which is I'm going to add some red miso paste. This is both going to give it, like, it's already got a really lovely looking color here, but it's going to add to that beautiful copper color. I'm going to take this off the heat. It's going to add to that beautiful copper color. I'm going to add a little more water just to assist in the emulsification. There we go. Now, as the butter cools, as this whole affair cools off, it should thicken up and become more like, like a pancake syrup, not like liquid water. And I'm going to add that red miso to it. And that miso is going to add a whole level of savory sort of unctuousness to it that it wouldn't have had otherwise. So let's grab the miso. Now, a lot of miso is, it basically has a ton of the particulate. I believe it's the rice or something in it. I don't know how miso is made, if I'm being honest. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it through, I'm going to press it through a fine mesh sieve in the hopes of catching some of that crap. Just because I don't want this to have a texture. I just want it to dissolve straight in. So pressing it through this fine mesh sieve. Yeah, because this stuff has a distinct, here I'm going to taste it just to confirm. It's got a graininess to it. It's got a flavor profile very similar to that of soy sauce. But I don't know, it's different, and I just think that that's going to contribute the most beautiful color to this stuff. Hopefully help it thicken a little bit too, because that stuff is thin. Let's really press that through. And it didn't catch much particulate, but I don't know, maybe one day I'll be glad that I did that. Okay, here we go. Into our pancake syrup goes about a tablespoon of the red miso. Totally optional. You do not need to do this, but I think it's going to be good. Whisk it in there, break up the bigger clumps. Miso is also very, very salty, just like soy sauce. So this is going to add a fair amount of salt to our syrup, which is going to be nice. But make sure you don't salt it independently of this, or you're going to have a rough time, I think. Oh, I can't wait to taste this. It smells bananas. And you can see like that miso definitely, it gave it incredible color. It already had a lovely color, but now it's like, whew, it's like a copper penny. And it also clearly has assisted in the emulsification. Like there was some fat separation, some like oily stuff on top, and now it's just one consistency, which is exactly where we want to be. So let's taste it. I need to know. Inquiring minds need to know. Ooh, 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 ooh. So yeah, I'm hoping that this is going to thicken up significantly as it cools. I do want to serve it kind of warm. Holy hell. Oh, it tastes like caramel. Oh, it's incredible. Okay. I don't think it was necessary to sieve that miso. I didn't taste any particulate in there, so maybe I was just fooled by the look of it. Because if you look at the container, it looks like it's going to have like a really distinctly pebbly kind of consistency, but like that's smooth as a baby's bottom. Sorry, and I didn't see any like chunks in the sieve, so interesting. All right, so we have our syrup, which is already starting to thicken up a little bit as it cools. That's great. And we have our apples. We have our honey butter. That means it's time to make pancakes. This is going to be a faster, easier episodes than the ones thus far, which is going to be nice. I am going to brown the butter for the pancakes themselves. It's right here. So this recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of butter. Now we're going to lose moisture in the process, but we can always add it back with the water. So maybe let's just keep it to 3 tablespoons. 1, 2, and we need to melt the butter anyway, so this is killing 2 birds here. Hopefully we can brown it and then add some ice to it, and that's going to cool it off enough where we can add it to our liquid ingredients without scrambling the eggs or anything like that. So what do we need to make our pancake batter? I need a big glass bowl so that you can see what I'm doing. Something I definitely should have gotten before we started. That's going to be for the main mix, and then this will be for our wet ingredients, because just like a cake, most cakes that is, pancakes are best assembled in a 2-step process where you combine the dry ingredients, combine the wet ingredients, then the 2 shall meet. So I'm just going to brown this butter real quick. And this is a show where I'm increasingly trying to be mindful of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. It's a lot of fun to just like have this kind of conversation with you and talk to you about what I'm doing. We already talked about this, and I want to focus in on this real quick. It's only going to take a couple minutes. If you're doing the same, I encourage you to do so, or just, you know, take a look at the beautiful footage that we're capturing and sit back and enjoy a mindful moment. That's it. You can see I've killed the heat just shy of them turning properly brown because I want the gentle residual heat to carry them over so we don't get so close like last time where we almost burnt it. See that? I turned off the flame about 20 seconds ago, and it's just now getting to the properly browned state. I'm just going to use these 2 small ice cubes. What do I do with this third one? I don't know. Into my water. That is both going to return the missing water back to the butter, and it's going to cool it off a little bit because I'm about to start building pancake batter. We don't want to pour boiling hot butter into our batter for so many reasons, but mostly because we're combining the wet ingredients first, which means that if I add hot butter to it, it's going to scramble the egg, which is no good. So these are going to be buttermilk pancakes, which means that they are chemically leavened, which means you need to make sure that your baking powder is not expired. This recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of baking powder that interacts directly with the buttermilk, which causes the pancakes to rise. Thing with baking powder is you'd think that this would never expire. It's just one of those pantry items that you're like, oh, I got this 8 years ago, it's fine, it's baking powder. But it does lose its efficacy over time. And in a recent episode, I used some baking powder that was about 8 months expired, and lo and behold, did not work at all. So make sure your baking powder is up to date. We are going to scale out the dry here because why not? We're looking for 7 ounces of flour. Now you can figure out what the approximate cups are if you don't have a scale by doing some maths. I believe 1 cup of flour is about 4 1/4 ounces. So divide 7 by 4 1/4, and that's how many cups you're throwing in. I don't have the poetry of mathematics to do that for you in my head, but you get the idea. And I'll give you the grams in just a moment. I will let the scale convert them for me. This is all-purpose flour. You could use cake flour too, because pancakes are, well, a cake. But I think people generally use all-purpose because you're making this Sunday morning. You're not doing special shopping for it generally. So most of the time you got just AP in the house, and you know, it's going to work just fine. That's why they call it all-purpose. 7 ounces is about exactly 200 grams. Who would have thunk? Not me. To that, we're going to add our other dry ingredients. We're going to start with 2 tablespoons. White sugar, I need a tablespoon. I'll tell you what the weight is in grams too, just in case you don't want to measure it out for some reason. The reason that this is in 26 grams of sugar. The reason that I'm doing that not by weight but by volume is because, unlike flour, sugar doesn't really compress much. Flour compresses a lot. So depending on how you scoop it, if you really compressed it when you scooped it up, or a bunch of other factors, you could have more or less flour than you need to be working with. So bear that in mind. Then we need 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. Got 1 teaspoon, and just eyeball the half, mostly for seasoning. So if you're over or under by 1/4 teaspoon, not gonna be the end of the world. Then, and because salt doesn't really stick to stainless steel, I'm just gonna wipe this clean, and it's good to go with the next thing I wanna measure, which is 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Once again, making sure that this baking powder is not expired. August 2025, we still got a solid 6 months left in this sucker. 2 teaspoons baking powder. And just because I don't like to cross-contaminate baking powder, baking soda, I'm going to grab a new spoon. And just a half teaspoon of baking soda. Let's see if I can even pour that out. Yeah, it's about half a teaspoon. There we go. Excellent. So that is our dry ingredients, which this is not going to make many pancakes, is it? I thought I was going to be able to make a test pancake, but it looks like I'm going for gold straight out of the gate. Okay, let's get the scale out of the way. Now for the wet ingredients, we have 2 cups of buttermilk. This should be ideally room temperature. This is, I took it out of the fridge about an hour and a half ago. It's still a little chilly, which I'm not going to take any chances here. I want to warm this up a little, just a little bit, and I can't use the microwave because everything's plugged into the same circuit, and if I use the microwave, I blow the switch. Oh well, guess we're just going to cross our fingers here. 2 cups of buttermilk. Important to use buttermilk because buttermilk is acidic and it interacts with the baking powder, and that's where we get our leavening from. It's a chemical leavening combination. And if you can't get buttermilk, if you don't have any on you, if you just want to make this out of the gate, you can just acidulate your milk. So for every cup of milk, whole milk, add 1 tablespoon of either lemon juice or white vinegar, or apple cider vinegar if you're a health nut. And that should be absolutely fine. So let's get our egg in there. We need 1, likewise, room temperature egg. Quite a luxury in this day and age. I don't know when you're watching this, but right now egg prices are out of control. There we go. Now, so I think what I'm going to do here, that's the chilese. That's the egg placenta goop, chilese, whatever. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add the butter after the fact, because if I add it to the liquids right now, they're cold. They're going to re-solidify that butter, and I simply cannot have that. So, let's mix up our dry ingredients with the whisk, and whisk them together. This way we're making sure that there's no pockets of leavener or salts or anything like that. Let's add our liquid ingredients. And then just when this starts to come together, I'm going to add the butter because I really don't want to re-solidify the butter, because then we'll end up with little chunky globules of butter, and that's no good. So the flour should help normalize the temperature in here a little bit. Just stirring gently just to get stuff coming together. It's a lot less cold now. Let's see how the butter's doing temperature-wise. That's quite hot. Might have jumped the gun here a little bit. Is it so hot that it will cook the eggs? No, I can stick my finger in it. It's not going to cook no eggs. So let's slowly stream it in while we're mixing, ensuring that it gets incorporated rather than turning into little globs. Yeah, you don't want to overmix your pancake batter, but you can see I still got plenty of lumps. I'm far from overmixed. There we go. Brown butter pancake batter, ready to go. So, now for the method of creation. Oh, I found a big pocket of flour there. You see that? That's why it's good to have a glass bowl. You can go around, look at the underside of the bowl, find any pockets of resistance, and wipes them out. There we go. Beautiful. Now for the cooking process, I'm going to start by preheating my broiler, because as you may have guessed from what I just said, you finish these pancakes off under the broiler. Tricky pancake. We'll see if we can master it. So, how do we make these? Well, I'll show you. Basically, we need to make these in a nonstick skillet. This is a nice tiny little, what is this, 8-inch? A small skillet. This little guy might be, I think that's 8 inches. All right. I think that this is basically, you know, look at the size of the skillet. This is the size of the pancake that I want. Perfect. So preheat this guy pretty generously over medium-ish heat. This is a very powerful burner. So if you're doing this at home and you don't have a very powerful burner, it might be like solid medium. For me, it's gonna be like medium, medium-low, because I don't want to scorch this thing. Basically, we're dumping in a lot of pancake batter, letting it slow-ish cook until we get a really nice dark crust on the bottom and it's not yet done on the top. Then we throw it under the broiler to finish cooking. It's pretty wild, but I think it's going to be a good time. It's also good to let your pancake batter stand at room temperature. I forgot. You're supposed to let this rest. Maybe I should hold off for a sec. How long are you supposed to let pancake batter rest? I should know. How long let pancake batter rest? All right, yeah, no, I mean, that's what I thought it was going to be, 30 minutes. I don't know if we all want to sit around here for 30 minutes. I think we're okay. I'm going to go ahead and cross my fingers on that one, but I think we're okay. It's also getting really hot in here, so I need to open a window. Hopefully that's not going to let in too much street noise. But, oh, it's getting hot in here. Whew. And now that I got the broiler going, it's going to get really hot in here. All right, so preheating my little non-stick skillet. I'm rotating it here and there, moving it around a little bit, just making sure that it's evenly preheated. That way we're going to get a more even brown top when we throw in our batter. Feels pretty good and warm, so you know, I'm gonna go for it. I think we have enough here to make 3, so worst case, I'm making one test here that isn't quite as good as it should or could be. I've done worse, dumber things in my life for worse reasons. And you'll notice that I did not use any fat. And that is because, I'm gonna go for about 2 ladlefuls here. That is because if you want a nice, even brown surface that isn't all blotchy and splotchy, you just use nonstick or your nonstick griddle. Don't use any fat. The fat is what makes the first, you know, everybody always says the first pancake's always a little weird. It's because of the fat. The first pancake soaks up all that fat, leaving you with a nice, dry, clean griddle. And then the rest, as they say, is history. So I'm going to try to keep a close eye on this. You can see that there are bubbles coming up, but they're breaking the surface and filling in. That's a good sign. That means that we're cooking, but we're still raw. When the bubbles start to break the surface and stay broken, that means that the pancake is starting to cook through. And we're basically going to be hitting this from both sides. That's how it comes together. So now need a little spat. I just want a little spat to peek at this guy. What's going to be our best color here? Pink, I guess. Wearing my Goldie today in honor of Golden Diner. Shout out Sam Yu, doing incredible things. When the edges start to turn a little bit shiny, like not wet shiny, but like dry shiny, that's when we know we can start taking a look around the outside. I'm also going to give this a 90-degree turn because, you know, could have hot spots in the pan, could have hot spots on the burner. I want a nice evenly brown cake, so I'm going to try to take precautions to do so. It's puffing up beautifully, and I can see that it's starting to brown underneath. Let's take a look. Can I get in there? Can I peek? Yeah, oh man, that's starting to look great already. And I can see that bubbles are starting to break and stay broken. We're getting close. It means that we're probably might be roughly halfway cooked through this thing, which means that when we put it under the broiler and finish cooking it, it'll be cooked through. That's science. Okay. Looking beautifully golden brown. I don't want it this liquidy in the center. I want it to be not set at all, but like getting closer to setting. And I should probably turn down the heat a little bit. The broiler also, I think I should have it on it's on medium. I have the broiler set to medium. You might not be able to adjust the strength of your broiler. If you can't, then just lower the oven rack one slot, and that should get you a little more control over the situation, which isn't that what we're all looking for? Okay. Still pretty jiggly, but I don't want to heat it much more. I think I'm going to take it off the heat, get the next one started. Why not? And I'm going to let this finish cooking under the broiler. I'll probably broil it until it's just starting to lightly brown, and then I'm going to take it away from the broiler, put it on a lower rack, and let it just finish cooking, or at least stay warm in the oven before we turn it out and serve it. So it's jiggly. It's very jiggly in the center without being too liquidy. I'm going to let the residual heat keep working on it a little bit. But man, it puffed up beautifully. That is a tall, proud, beautiful pancake, and I will not apologize for it. Oh, it's heating up fast. These are the old non-stick pans, which these are made of thinner aluminum, and as such, it will heat up faster, but not as evenly or as goodly. But these new non-stick pans are available on Amazon now. They're nice and affordably priced. They're extremely convenient, and they are oven safe to 500 degrees, which is why I feel comfortable placing this one under the broiler. I think I'm just going to leave this open just to keep an eye on it. This guy feels ready to receive 2 ladles of batter. Smells oddly beefy. Makes me wonder if something was recently cooked in there and not washed quite well enough. Sorry you have to hear about this stuff. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely cooking that side. That's cool. That's exciting. I like that. This is an exciting journey. I'm stoked about this. I'm stoked to see what happens. It looks like I have enough for one more, if one of these face plants. And I think I put too much in here. This guy's already puffing up to the rivets, which this one did not. So I'm thinking I put too much batter in here, and I wonder if it's not too late to scoop some out. Is that crazy? It's all still liquid in the center. Why couldn't I? Why can't I? Am I not allowed? Is there some law against taking some of this out? All right, I think my heat's a little too high because the edges are becoming solidified very, very quickly, and the center is still completely liquid. My other pancake is still yet to brown on the bottom or top, or depending on how you classify things. Let's take a look here. Okay, yeah, we're getting good browning, but nothing too dramatic yet. That's good. I'm going to turn this 90 degrees. And then we're almost ready to serve. Let's check on the consistency of our syrup, even though we have so many other things going right now that we should be paying attention to. That is looking perfect. Look at that. Oh man. It's almost a little gelatinous, like I added a thickener to it or something. But it's not. It's just honey and maple. God, that tasted incredible, but it smells really good too. Oh, okay. We got a little hot. Might have gotten a little hot. Oh yeah, I think I torched it a little bit on the front end, which is something I tend to do. Also, I think that this stove Now I'm looking at the flame, it's way bigger in the front. No wonder the front always gets way too overcooked and burns and stuff like that. It's not my fault. I think that's still salvageable though. That being said, I do have the means to make another. This is taking its sweet freaking time, so. Now, I think I can also just like do a little tear in the bottom and just take a look at the state of things, make sure it's cooked through. But this is also in a pretty good spot, I think. Let me grab of gloves here. Get ready for the coming pancake revolution. Yeah, no, oh, that's definitely cooked through. I can feel it. It's not as brown as I would like. I'm almost tempted to turn up the broiler. I would like to get some more color on the bottom side there. I'll turn off this flame that's just idly on. Oh man, this is going to be a way easier episode. We've only been going for an hour. That's cool. I like that. All right, well, it's only got a little bit of spotty browning. I might turn up the broiler. Just hold it closer for a second, see if that helps. It's crazy, I can see the sugar is bubbling out and caramelizing. Maybe one day we'll get a, oh yeah, holding it closer is very quickly making a difference. Very quickly. Wow, yeah, that really, that spoke up. So there we go. That's what we're looking for in terms of brownness on the bottom / top of the pancake. And you can see there's zero gelatinousness to it. I do want to tear it open, and I'm going to let it set for a minute before I do anything so drastic as to tear it open. But it should stay nice and warm in there. Should stay. It's so thick, and it's in a nice hot, which, pro tip, it's in a nice hot pan, and that handle was underneath the broiler, which means that it's crazy hot, which means that if I accidentally idly grab it, I'm going to burn the life out of myself, and I don't want to do that. So that's the tip, is that you take one of your oven gloves or a cafe towel or something, drape it over the handle to make sure that you're not accidentally grabbing for that thing and headed for the hospital. All right. While that broils, I'm going to clear off my workstation a little bit. Get ready for service here. Oh man. Oh, look at that pancake syrup. I'm so delighted by that. Let me do it on the close-up cam here so we really feel the syrupiness of this. Oh, dude. And I can't describe to you how good this tastes. It's brown butter, honey, maple syrup, and red miso. It's one of the most delicious substances yet discovered on this planet. I don't know how to describe it to you except that like the closest thing that I can liken it to is caramel. But there's brown butter and there's maple in there too. Like take caramel, add brown butter, maple, and miso. It's unbelievable. I just want to freaking annihilate that spoon. Oh my God. Whew. Oh. Well, while I'm waiting on that, I am trying things a little bit differently today. I have two of my compatriots in the other room, Sawyer and Gabe, who's one of our newest employees. And I'm experimenting if I can still have the same feeling, same vibe when I'm here, if there's other people here, even if they're in another room. And so far, I feel pretty good about it. I feel relatively centered, not very performative, not like I'm trying to make people laugh or, you know, go over the top with things. I'm just gonna throw this back in the oven underneath the other one just to keep it warm. It looks like it's collapsing just a little bit. and I don't want that. Luckily, I think all the noise that we're getting through the window is just birds chirping. That's just nice. Oh yeah, I think we're in good shape, my friends. I think we are in good shape. Nothing about that pancake to me reads as undercooked. This is a very interesting way to make pancakes. I guess the issue is that you can't really make them en masse the same way that you would, you know, if it's Sunday and you're cooking for your family or whatever. You can't like crank out a dozen of these. You can only crank them out one, maybe two at a time if you have two identical pans, two identical nonstick pans, which most people don't have. I'm lucky enough to have, you know, a whole collection of crap over here. So perhaps a little prohibitive if you're cooking for a group. I'm sure that you could make these and turn them out and hold them in a low oven, but I don't know how well they would hold up. I don't know how they would age, if they would collapse, if they would become gummy because they're so freaking thick, if they would collapse under the weight of their own being. No idea. So I do know that if you're just making pancakes for yourself or for one or two other people, then this is a very interesting way to go. It's one of the reasons why you generally eat out at restaurants, is that this is not the kind of thing that you can whip up as casually for a number of people the way that you could if you just went to somebody like Sam Yu, who's doing such incredible work at Golden Diner, and who's going to make it for you. Oh, I want to warm up my apples. I do want nice warm apples. So I'm gonna heat those very gently. And it looks like my pancakes are done and ready. So let's get ready for service, shall we? I'm gonna set the table. Set the table like a real, just like a real boy, just like a real human being. Should I got a napkin? No, that's crazy. Okay. There's our pancakes. I'm gonna blast this one underneath the broiler just a little bit, just to wake it back up. And I think that this side of my pancake here is gonna be a little bit more burned than the other side. So I'm just gonna, whoop, oh, all right. That looks pretty freaking nice, actually. Now all I have to do is stick the landing with the second one. It feels completely done throughout. It's very hard to tell, but it feels done. It'd be collapsing if it weren't. And these are definitely not as thick as Sam's. His are probably another centimeter? Centimeter thicker than that? His are definitely a little thicker, so you could probably go thicker. I just was so scared of not getting the browning right, not getting the center cooked, that this was a bit of a, the easification of the process. All right, let's turn this guy out. See if I can nail it. Nailed it. A little off center, tiny bit. Easily revisable. Look at that. Look at those. Look at those, dude. Look at the size of those and the dimensionality of these. Look at those. Okay. So now let's get nasty with them. Apples should be nice and warm. Wow, they're saucy. I could almost use this stuff as the pancake syrup. I'm gonna lay down a healthy bed of these. They really put out a lot of juices there that I'm gonna have to save for another use. Let's get all those apples out on there. Those are looking sweet, hot, nice. It's an industry term. I'm making a little divot to hang on to our butter, so because the one big issue with putting butter on pancakes is it immediately just rolls off. So I'm making a little divot amongst these apples that will just cradle it. Let's go big or go home here. It's a lot of pancake we gotta account for. Here, I'll try to do some quenelling action here. I'm not going to be able to. I haven't done a proper quenelle in many moons, but that's freaking close enough. I'll take it. That's not a canal at all. In fact, I landed it ugliest side up. Hilarious. Okay, and of course, our brown butter, red miso, honey maple pancake syrup. Dude. Oh my God. I mean, let's go nuts, right? I want those dribbles down the sides. I want the little dribbles down the sides, indicating that there's just a little too much syrup. Also, there's a whole lot of pancake. What am I being conservative for here? Come on. Let's go crazy. All right. Okay. Let's try it out. I want a little bit of everything in the first bite. I'll grab some of this gorgeous honey butter on these apples. 2 of these apples. Come on. Let's not hold back here. And I'll turn these pancakes around so you can see the cross section. That's a big bite. Get out of town, man. Oh, God, that's good. You can see that the pancakes are nice and light and fluffy, not dense or collapsed at all, not gummy or anything like that. You can see they're really nice and open, beautiful structure in there. Oh, the syrup is honestly the best part. Like, these are great pancakes, but the syrup is bananas, out of control. And the honey butter, everything's just spectacular. Oh, man. Whew. Well, guys, as always, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for cooking along with me, if that's what you did. Thank you for watching, and thank you for giving me this space to experiment and play around and have some fun. I'm having a really great time making this show. I hope you're having a good time watching. I hope that you are also making some really fantastic food, and I hope that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you're finding peace, happiness, and I was going to say good food, but then that's redundant. It was going to be so good. Well, thank you very much for joining me. And keep cooking. I will if you will. I'm going to see what these guys think of this.
This is the best pancake I've ever had.
Oh, thank you. It's been sitting for a bit, so it might be a little bit gummy, but
No.
and I don't know why whenever somebody gives me a compliment, I feel the need to qualify it. So it's a bad habit that I'm working on, but thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks again to Danish Creamery for sponsoring this episode. If you haven't yet tried Danish Creamery, the extra butter fat is your secret weapon in the kitchen. Have Danish Creamery butter on hand for your cooking and baking projects to add that extra rich, creamy touch to your dish. If you're looking for a kitchen game changer, consider Danish Creamery butter on your next shopping trip.